All beings considered, Dr. Crystal Heath and Skyjack Morgan. Dr. Crystal Heath, it's a Friday. We're doing something a little special today on a Friday. Normally we do FOIA Friday, and I know there's going to be a few people who are like, "Where are my FOIA documents? Why aren't we doing FOIA?" But we're doing a little something special this week, aren't we?
Yes, we're interviewing another veterinarian. So that'll be fun.
That's always my favorite thing. I love interviewing veterinarians and talking with them, and they're always so inspiring to me. I always feel like going out and fighting the good fight when I talk to a veterinarian, actually. And they always open my eyes about kind of more animal issues. You know, the theory of change of our honor is to get more veterinarians involved, right? And following their consciences and speaking up for animals, right?
And elevating the voices of veterinarians who are already doing that and helping connect them with animal advocacy campaigns to lend legitimacy to those campaigns. Because right now, corporate interests wield the veterinarians' moral authority to advance their own causes, which often includes crimes against animals, and we need to do the same thing to stop crimes against animals, especially the corporate kind. So.
Yeah, and every time we talk with a veterinarian on our podcasts, I always feel like it reinvigorates my faith in this theory of change, because they've always got as an activist, I always feel like I just feel more informed and more about animals and about what animals are going through and the different challenges that we face in the animal advocacy movement. So I think it's fantastic, and I can't wait to get to know Dr. Questen. Do you want to introduce Dr. Questen?
Maybe. Yeah, I guess I could.
Well, I could do it. I thought you're normally the one that does the does the intro, but I could
have
do it.
My thing up right now, but now I do.
I could do it. Okay,
go for it. You do it. You do things like that so well.
Dr. Jena Questen, veterinarian trainer and the life coach for people with pets. She owns Aspen Park Vet, a holistic animal hospital in Conifer, Colorado, and is the founder of ResqRanch, the nation's premier positive reinforcement and animal sanctuary and education center. She's also an aquatic vet, and I don't know, it's a super cool person to talk with, and I can't wait to get to know her better. Let's bring her on. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Welcome to the show, Dr. Q.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Do you prefer Dr. Q?
And that's usually easier because people always are like trying to struggle with my last name and the pronunciation of my first name. So sometimes it's just easier to go by Dr. Q.
I like Dr. Q too, because it's like Doctor Who. I've always been a Doctor Who fan. Dr. Q sounds like a Dr. Question mark. It sounds like a superhero.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Well, we normally start out with kind of the background questions, like where you grew up and how your early relationship with animals was like. Do you want to just get us started with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I grew up kind of not too wealthy, not really the immigrant parents, not really the best childhood, to be honest with you. I was the only person from my family that went to college or anything like that. Not the easiest childhood for sure, but what helped me get through it was our animals, right? So I was very, very fortunate that we had a lot of pets, and that is really what shaped me. And there was a lot of times they were my only friends, not to sound like awful sad, but it's true, and so that's how I was like, I didn't know there was any other job besides being a veterinarian if you really love animals. So I was like, well, I guess that's what I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Oklahoma City.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So very conservative.
Yeah.
Really in the middle of the city, interstates and airplanes going by. And I had no really exposure to animals. I just had, like large animals, so to speak. My room was always covered with posters of horses. I would save my lunch money and buy posters of horses instead of eating lunch.
Yeah.
And so I just always wanted to be around horses mostly, but all kinds of animals for sure.
Man, I love Oklahoma. It does get hot in Oklahoma, but I love it there. The music, the tradition there, and I've been to Oklahoma a lot, and I love it. I find it always so beautiful. And some people say Oklahoma's okay.
Yes.
Oh,
So
God.
did you like do high school, college, straight to vet school? What did you do before vet school? What college did you go to? How was your pre-vet experience? How did you prepare yourself to become a veterinarian?
Yeah, so again, I not a great kind of childhood and so forth. So I was literally out on my own before I was 18. I had my own apartment and was working
Yeah.
7 days a week and supporting myself. So it was work, work, work all the time for me, just trying to
What
like
kind of work?
I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken
Yeah.
and I worked at a vet hospital, cleaning kennels and things like that. And then sometimes I would get jobs at different horse ranches around, cleaning stalls and stuff. So mostly just any and every job I could get, so that I could support myself because I didn't really have a safety net of any kind. So it was just me, taking care of me, which was tough, at that time. So I always went to school, again, paying for all my own school. So it took me a long time to get all of my undergraduate requirements done, because I wasn't able to just go to school for 4 years and get a 4-year degree.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So I actually got a 2-year degree, first of all, in horse racing management from Oklahoma
Oh,
State.
wow.
And so that's what I did first. And then through that, I got really involved with the racetrack and got a job at the racetrack, and then ended up following the racetrack around the country for a long time, and just continuing to take classes here and there, trying to get all my requirements out of the way, so that I could finally apply to vet school once I had all my requirements done.
Amazing. So, what was your where did you go to undergrad?
So I have
Oklahoma State, you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I have two
And then-
2-year degrees. I have a
Okay.
2-year degree from Oklahoma State University, in horse racing management, and then I have a 2-year degree from Highland College in Illinois. Because
Okay.
again, I was traveling all over the
All
place,
over.
and I'm just an associate of science. And together, those two were enough to get me the requirements that I needed to apply for vet school.
That's so interesting.
Amazing.
So it starts out with horse racing
Mhm.
and ends up at veterinary medicine. I feel like that transition had to be, I don't know, inspired. What inspires you to go to the vet, switch over?
I feel like it's a very good, it's a path because there's so much
Yeah.
veterinary medicine involved in horse racing, and everybody is injecting the horses with all the stuff. I used to dream of being a jockey too, like Julie
Yeah.
Crone and everything. And then, and my uncle was a racehorse vet. And then, vet school. I don't know if you know this, my uncle is the chair of the California Horse Racing Board.
Wow.
Oh, awesome. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, he was the sort of the grandfather of arthroscopic surgery in racehorses, and had a
Wow,
big
that's so
multi-million-dollar track or practice, and then ended up leaving it and sort of criticized the horse racing industry a lot.
Yeah, well, there's plenty there to criticize, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was veterinary school what you expected? Was it something? Was it all it was cracked up to be?
That's an interesting question because no, right? I always imagined that it would be like, oh, I want to meet these friends and I'm going to be this lifelong relationships with these amazing people. And it was not, my experience was not like that. I was really, as I had to work all the time. So I was around a lot of kids that didn't have to work. And so they would just sort of like go to the coffee shops and sit around and study all the time while I was out delivering pizzas. And then, when our grades came back and they made better grades than I do, they would always sort of like look down their nose at me a little bit like, well, whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's because you were sitting in the coffee shop studying and I was like delivering pizzas until 2 in the morning. But, so it was not really fun for me. Not really like the lifelong friends that I thought I would make while I was there. So, and it was really hard for me too, again, because I worked a lot and I didn't come from family that like valued education and things like that. I felt like, all the studying and stuff was just harder for me than maybe for some other people. But I got through it.
Yeah. C's equal degrees, like
persevered. Yeah, C's get degrees. A lot of people said that where I went too. C's get degrees. Stop working so hard. And I was like, no, I have to get a 4.0 because I did nothing. I got a 4.0 and did nothing with it. Like so.
Oh, that's so impressive, though.
Well, I guess. I mean, I guess I get to say that in times like this. But no, I was the same as you. My parents. I was the first generation college student. The same thing. I mean, they did want me to go, but it wasn't like something that was expected or. And I had jobs the whole time, and it was hard. It's hard going to school and going to work at the same time. It's just
it's kind of just funny how we all have similar childhood experiences, like really rough kind of childhoods, and then it gives us some sort of compassion for animals, I think, because it's like we want to be that hero when nobody was there for us.
It could very well be. Yeah.
I think that, and also, it's also a sense of empathy being built, right? Like to see if you yourself have been a victim of any form of oppression, I think, or a form of tyranny or something that's, pick a synonym. And when you see animals being subjected to something akin to that, it's like, you wish someone spoke up for you when you were a kid, and you want to speak up for them. I think that's.
Yeah, but I would recommend traumatizing children as a way to instill empathy.
No, no,
systematic way of fixing our society's problems.
No, I don't think you could recreate it in a laboratory. I don't think you could. I think that's a good theory of change. No, you're right.
So what did you end up doing after veterinary school? What was your first job?
Yeah, so my first job in veterinary school was working at a mixed animal practice in Bailey, Colorado, which is a beautiful, beautiful mountain community. I never thought I would be lucky enough to A, stay in Colorado, or B, end up getting a job in such a beautiful location. So I just felt like I lucked out. So I was doing mixed animal practice there for about the first 6 months. And then the practice actually was sold. And the person who bought the practice didn't want the large animal part. She only wanted the small animal part. So the previous owner and I took all the book of business of the large animal clients, and we started our own practice. And so I was within 6 months out of school, I was already practice owner. And so I can still some at the mixed or it was now a small animal practice, and then started my own equine practice in the area.
Oh, wow. So what's that like, being a new grad and having to run a practice?
Yeah.
Like, do you have employees that you have to manage too? And
we really didn't, it was just he and I that did it. So we just kind of went out on our own. We didn't really have any staff. So mostly just getting over, how terrifying it is to show up at a house call or a ranch call and not know what you're getting into. And then of course, the worst case scenario is the truck's not stocked with the one thing you need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's just like nothing you can do because you're 20 miles away from the clinic, and it's the middle of the night and whatever. So you really learn a lot about making do with what you get, and resiliency, and just like not panicking and just be like, okay, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We hear a lot about like misogyny among kind of the older large animal clients. Did you experience any of that?
Yeah, sure. I remember I went to one house call one time, and I got out of the truck, and this man walked up to me, and he did not say anything to me at all. He did not say a word. He walked right up to me and smelled my neck. And then he stepped back and he was like, "Ooh, you smell really nice."
I'm gonna punch that guy in the face right now.
I was like, "Nice to meet you too, Mr. Whatever,"
Ugh.
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean,
was he married?
That's farm life for you. That's farm life.
Yeah. But yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm sorry. Did you ask me?
I was wondering, like, was that? Do you remember? You probably don't remember, but was that guy married? Like, can we tell his wife?
I don't think he was, I don't even remember. But I don't know. So yeah, I don't do much large animal practice anymore. Lots of reasons why, but certainly that's one of them, because that does get tiresome after a while, especially because I'm a small person. I'm like barely 5'2". And so, I got a lot of flack when I worked on the racetrack too. But the thing is about horses is that they tend to respond better, I think, to smaller, quieter
Yes.
handling, right? And so I remember that when I left the track to go, because I couldn't always travel because I'd need to be in one place so I could take classes, right? Because ultimately I really wanted to just become a veterinarian. And one of the horses that I had been handling for several months was having a race. And even though I didn't actually work for the trainer anymore, he called me and said, would you please come and walk this horse to the gate? Because he's never been to a race without you. And we just don't,
wow.
and we just don't think he'll run as well if you don't, if you're not there. And so yeah, of course I went, and helped that horse to the track. But so I feel like, especially working around horses, a lot of times it's not been a hindrance. In fact, it's probably been a help being like a smaller, quieter, softer kind of person. I often will be able to get horses to do a lot of things for me, or dogs and cats for that matter too, that other people don't, because I just really take my time with them, because I can't muscle this animal. Like I just can't. So I have to handle them in a way to encourage them, to build trust with them really quickly and get them to do what I need to get done. And so it's been kind of a blessing in some ways.
Yeah. And I think, us smaller people with our smaller hands and arms, we're much better at palpating rectally when you have to. I think the animals appreciate it.
And they appreciate it, right? I'm always like, the good news is I have small fingers,
Yes. Exactly.
For brilliant. I'm sure that horses thanked you. So what point did you begin to feel called toward a more holistic approach in your work with animals? I mean, it's a far cry from race horses, right? How did you kind of transition to holistic?
Yeah, so that's definitely a story. So that same horse that I was just talking about. So I ended up, when his career ended, I ended up getting that horse and then dragging him all around the country with me while I was continuing to finish my veterinary degree. And while I was in vet school, so he was like, my, as they say, my heart horse. Those that know. So he was my heart horse, and he colicked, and it was, not great. And he had to have surgery. And after surgery, he wasn't doing well. I was in vet school at the time. I was a sophomore. And so I was going to visit him in the hospital every day, and freaking out about how I'm going to pay for all this, for one thing. And also, like, it's my horse. And after surgery, he was getting these cyclic fevers. So like every 12 hours, he would spike a fever and then it would come down. And then 12 hours later, he'd spike a higher fever and then it would come down. And so you had medicine talking with surgery and all these different departments at the university. And I could just tell that nobody kind of knew what to do. They were all kind of like shaking their head, like, they're just they were lavaging his abdomen and all. And he just was not getting out of this cycle. So one of the veterinary technicians in the barn said, hey, there's an acupuncture clinic happening this weekend. You should see about getting your horse in as a demo for that clinic. And so she helped orchestrate it. He was used in the demo. They did acupuncture on him. And within like 2 hours of that acupuncture treatment, his fever broke. He never got a fever again. And he was released from the hospital the next day. So it was like a hit on the head for me, pretty clear message from the universe that I better learn about acupuncture.
Yeah, it's amazing sometimes, like what it can do. And I don't know much about acupuncture and everything, but we always do, like when an animal isn't breathing under anesthesia, you press the nose and suddenly they start breathing again. And it's amazing. Did you do the full acupuncture course ever, or do you just kind of?
I did the CSU course, right? Because there's two places. There's the one in Florida and there's the one at CSU. Since I went to CSU, it was more convenient for me to do that one. And then I actually was invited to come back and help TA the sessions the next year. But, it was pretty intensive. It really was, because, it's like a whole new level of anatomy, right? So you're not just like figuring out where bones and muscles are, but all these little bumps and protrusions on the bones that guide you to where the needle insertion points are and things like that. So it was good. It was a great experience. I loved that. Of course, going to CSU, it was much more of an analytical type training, Whereas if you go to the Chi Institute, it's more about the Chinese methods and the energy flow and Chi movement and things like that, which is not how I was trained in acupuncture. But I mean, I think that they both have value, because at the end of the day, either way, you're getting to the same solution, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen really good results with your patients with acupuncture. And do you have any stories to share about some really interesting patients that have made recoveries or improvements from acupuncture?
Yeah, one of my favorite stories, I think, is about a cat that I had that had seasonal allergies. And so every spring, they would be bringing this cat in for the Depomedrol injection because, its allergies would flare up and the cat scratching his face and so forth. And so I had said, well, why don't we just try some acupuncture and instead one time. And we did acupuncture on the cat, one treatment. That's it. And that treatment held that cat's allergies under control for the whole rest of the summer. And that happened several years in a row, where she would just bring the cat in for acupuncture. And one time, I do think cats are what we call strong responders. And so I don't think that I don't know like how to energetically really explain it, but they're just more sensitive. And so then I think that they take the treatment sometimes better. It's more powerful for them. And so, so that's probably one of my, but lots and lots of stories. I mean, I do acupuncture, 12 hours a day on the days I'm in the clinic. That's one of the main things we see almost all of our patients for. We try to encourage folks to add an acupuncture treatment to almost anything, even if it's like a young, healthy animal coming in for vaccines. We're like, hey, we can do a health booster and just do a little acupuncture while we're here, and then people really tend to like that. And they're like, wow, that really, he felt a lot better, and he was like happier and stuff. And so I'm like, well, yeah, I'm always here, anytime we want to do that again.
Yeah. And any time we can like avoid steroids and NSAIDs and all of these things and get good results, I think that's great. What were you going to say, Sky?
Besides acupuncture, how else does holistic veterinary practice differ from conventional practice? I always hear about acupuncture, but what else do holistic veterinarians do?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think one of the things that we do is I do a lot of titer tests instead of vaccinating. So that's really important. So all my clients are really, a lot of them are super against a lot of over vaccinating, and especially if it's an older pet or has some health issues. So we do titer testing. I do a lot of blood work. I do a lot of vitamin D and other kind of mineral testing that I think a lot of veterinarians don't do. Thyroid, cortisol, I check all the time. And then I manage these patients again as much as I can without NSAIDs or steroids. And instead I'm using Chinese herbs and supplements and vitamin D and, all these really natural ways, because as you know, 70 to 80% of the immune system is lining the GI tract, right? So if I can really nourish that animal's gut, teach people how to brush that cat's teeth and not be afraid to do it, keep the mouth clean so the food coming in the first place is good, that means everything from down the gut is going to be more optimized, and the animal's immune system is going to be more likely to function on its own and fight off that disease or minimize the progression of the disease from the inside out.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've clearly, I always think about holistic medicine for my own personal health before I think about going to I don't like doctors, just to have that, and not present company excluded, of course, but I don't like human doctors so much. I don't like visiting them.
Why? Why is that, Sky? Is it embarrassment? Is it you don't like the process? Is it because this is a huge problem with men. They don't go to doctors. They don't.
I don't go to doctors. I haven't been a doctor in very many years, except for like urgent care or something that was just. But no,
what is the major? I want to get down to the core of what is the issue with going to the doctors that makes it so unpleasant and something that you want to avoid.
I find that I don't trust them because I've gotten a bad, I got a very bad diagnosis that was false when I was younger. It was not, when I was young, I was an asthma kid, and I was constantly just pumped full of drugs, and then I would get bad attacks and wake up in the hospital. Later I was falsely diagnosed with cancer. It turned out to be an advanced form of eczema that was completely just messed me up when I was like 18. I think I had that, but that was like such a bonehead misdiagnosis. And then I find that like when I moved to Europe, the drug prices were so much cheaper. Everything was cheaper. I could go walk in to see a specialist without all this rigmarole we had to do here and all this extra out. Like you have to pay to see a doctor in order to tell him to go or her to go see another doctor whom you will also have to pay, even if it's, I find that they're distrustful. They're just as fraudulent as any other profession. And I also don't like suffering the dignities of sit here, fill out this paperwork so that you can go this Kafka-esque labyrinth that you've got to navigate in order to maintain this meat wagon, which like every other machine, if I just take care of it and put good gasoline in it and put good oil in it, this machine will run fairly well, barring any emergencies.
Just don't get. I mean, just if you got syphilis, though, take your penicillin.
Well, right. That's where I would end up in urgent care, and they would give me a penicillin. Right, that's where you get those types of diagnoses. That's fine. That type of thing I get, but most of the time I'll have like a twisted ankle or something, and they'll say, "Here's 800 milligrams of ibuprofen that you could have just doubled up on over the counter, and by the way, here, pay me." And elevate it. Do rest ice. What do you call it? What do you call it when you wrap it and then elevation? Whatever that rice is. Compression. Yeah. They just tell you the same stuff that you learned in gym class half the time. And I'm sorry. I'd rather try to do the holistic route and. I'll take. I'm having some inflammation as I get older, and I'll take some ginger. I've heard I'll take some turmeric. Maybe I can make a go of this. I'll just drink I've gone alcohol free. I can do it. I've got the willpower,
Yeah. I wonder, Dr. Q, I'm kind of noticing this distrust of veterinarians and doctors, and what can we do to combat that distrust? And why do your clients love coming to you so much and trust you? And what can other vets learn from that?
I mean, I think it's really hard because I did emergency medicine for 5 years. And so I really did learn it was a great experience for me. Because you're basically that whole time, if you're in that environment, it's just CYA with every single person that comes in the door, right? Yeah. It literally is, because you don't have time to build a relationship with them. You don't know who they are. You're trying to make judgment calls based on how they talk to you, what they're wearing, how they talk to each other in the exam room. If this person, has money to spend on this pet or really doesn't have money to spend on this pet, and so that you can navigate what you're going to recommend and how you're going to recommend. So it was really not a fun experience, but it was a useful one. Okay. Because I really did learn a lot about how to make some pretty fast decisions, not only about clinical cases, but also how to quickly build rapport with a person in a very high stress situation very quickly, to try to gain their trust so that they don't get angry because things aren't going the way they thought it should. And then they're suing you, the following week or something like that. Yeah. And so, so, I mean, distrust, I get it. I get sad when my clients come in. This just happened to me the other day. This client came in, had a little dog, kind of wasn't doing great, but was still kind of eating, but it didn't look, like on death's door, but also really didn't look great either. And so we did blood work, and the blood work just did not match the dog. Okay. The blood work, the dog was dead. I don't even know how the dog was alive with values that bad. Right. And so I said, look, you've got to go to an ER right now, get this dog on an IV, and it'll be in the hospital for 2 or 3 days on an IV and try to flush these kidneys and everything out. And I go, that's the best chance we've got. Right. So he took this dog to the ER, and then he called me in tears, an hour and a half later. And he's like, they're just telling me I have to put him down. They're telling me I have to put him down. And I was like, do not let them talk you into that. That is nuts. You have got to get that dog on fluid. So the dog never even got to get on fluids, right? I mean, I could have done that, right? And so so it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he's driving an hour back to my little community to pick up a bag of sub-Q fluids and let us do sub-Q fluids. And you know what? that was like 6 weeks ago, and that dog is fine. I mean,
Oh my
Wow.
he's not like great, and he's not going to live another 15 years. Okay.
Yeah. But he's all right.
But he's all
Yeah.
right. He's
Yeah.
eating and stuff. And so that was just like really frustrating for me, because I was like, what is your motivation to even just shut that poor man down and not even want to, I hate to say it this way, take his money to bring the
Yeah.
dog into the hospital and put an IV catheter in and just try.
Yeah.
Just
I
try.
mean, that you always wonder if that vet had some sort of traumatic experience with a similar case that
Yes.
went downhill. And they are so worried now about a client coming back and saying, like, you knew this
No.
dog wasn't going to make it and you charged me all this to try to save his
So
life
true.
anyway, or something. It's so hard,
Yes.
but it's, yeah. And so going into the vet, you never know what the vet's own trauma is going to be. And so have compassion for that veterinarian. And you never know what their last case was and how it scarred them and how it's affecting the way that they're treating your patient. So
Dr. Heath, don't you think that that's also, it's always comes back to that you always had that financial component. A lot of that trauma stems from this financial motivation, this financial component of the
we live
of
under
the puzzle.
capitalism where our patients are products and property, and everything costs money, when I kind of want to expand more publicly funded care, because all of these animals are members of society and we should treat them as such. So it's really hard. I don't envy veterinarians who have to work in for-profit practices where you have to spend so much time talking about money. It's just so tough for those vets to have,
because that's a real thing, like with Dr. Questen. So or I forget who said it, but like one of you guys were saying that you had me do all this and you took all my money and the dog still died. You knew the dog was going to die. And it's like, man, I could totally understand why someone would beef about that. I would be upset too, right? And then again, you're going, well, was I taken for a ride? Is this another thing where my mechanic says I need a new transmission when all I needed was transmission fluid? This seems right up there with dentistry. There's all sorts of fraudulent things that go on with this.
Well, I did, and I still do, but I've done a lot of expert witness cases over the years. And so I worked with a legal entity and would review records of when people would sue veterinarians. And so, and it was my job as the expert witness to come in and review all the records and the medical records and look for trends, aggressions or anything like that. And from doing that okay. I just lost all you guys, so I don't know if you.
No, you're good. We can hear you. We lost you for a second, but we can hear you now. If that's
okay.
Can you hear us though? I think we might be losing her.
I hope. There she is. The one thing I would say, yeah.
Just hold. Wait for the buffer if you can hear me.
I can.
All right. Okay, let's go.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go. I'm going to say it. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you the one thing that I think I would tell all veterinarians to help them to navigate if they ever find themselves in that situation where somebody is angry with them. It's 100% of the time it was the veterinarian stopped being compassionate towards the pet owner and started being afraid for their license or being in trouble. 100% of the time. It was a lack of ability to just have that really painful conversation that says, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Smith. We talked a lot about the fact that Fluffy might not get better if we do this. Remember, we talked about that a lot. And that is unfortunately what has happened. And I'm so sorry, but it doesn't change anything. But what I would see instead is veterinarians, as soon as the client calls back angry, the vet shuts down, make sure their practice liability insurance is shored up, and then just sits kind of in fear in the back office that just hopes it goes away. And so that's 100% of the time, the cases that I saw, that's what happened. It's
You
really,
know, that's something that makes me think of so many other people I've done business with, and it's like it's just basically emotional intelligence and conflict resolution. I think everyone could benefit from anyone in a position of power or authority should take classes about conflict resolution and emotional intelligence. I think we'd go a lot further.
Yeah.
yeah, and just
It,
having empathy
Yeah,
for that
that's
person.
emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah, yeah, even though it's tough. And then also, though, sometimes clients are mentally ill.
yeah,
Oh,
Okay.
that's
yes.
true.
I mean, they are. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of run into that relatively often in my vet practice, especially because we're kind
Mhm.
of specialty, kind of niche. And so we get some outlier folks that come in and are really attracted to sort of our special way of doing things. And
Yeah.
and so then we as a veterinary team have to be very mindful and have good discussions and support with each other to make sure that we're supporting each other's mental health too, as we're trying to navigate a difficult person who isn't really maybe super rational
Yeah.
sometimes.
It, and it's hard because I see so many courses and so many organizations offered to veterinarians to supposedly help mental health, and they are often very toxic. And I feel like there are
Mhm.
very few people training this in the right way, and there are very few spaces where discussions about conflict with clients are being had in a compassionate, empathetic way. And it's more like, you need to tell them how veterinarians have a high suicide rate and blah, blah,
Mm.
blah. And you need to put your foot down and all of this stuff. And it's like, oh no, like, I think there, and when you're talking about having empathy for clients, it's always comes back of like, oh, but veterinarians are the ones suffering here.
Everything that we go through, right?
And that's almost like a thing of when you view your own trauma and pain as more important than anybody else's, and like, or your profession as having more trauma and suffering than anybody else's, that almost, it sets us up for failure. I think it makes us weaker, and it perpetuates this harmful story about ourselves, and we then don't have empathy for anybody else because we believe that we are suffering way more than they are. It's like, oh yeah, they lost one dog, I've had to lose 10 dogs today, as my patients, so my suffering is worse. So
Right, we can't
I see
compare
that.
suffering, right? It's
Yeah.
impossible because especially if someone is suffering right now, we need to address that. It's so funny you
Mhm.
said that though, because like we need to be around people who have also understood that everyone we're meeting is not a rational moral
Yeah.
agent, right? Like one of my favorite things about the fact they put cameras on all our phones is that finally I can, when I tell people, yeah, because I used to work in casinos. I mean, I'm going to see 50,000 people today. Not all of them are going to be okay. Just playing the odds, just with basic odds, I'm going to meet some people who are not all right. And finally, with now we go online and you could see people losing their marbles at a Walmart, at a minimum wage worker there who's just trying to get through the day, and someone is not able to hold it together at the Walmart. Like, I'm glad that everyone is now aware of that, because it used to be I would tell those stories about like, man, you wouldn't believe what I saw today. 10 people lost their mind at the casino, and people would, that's entirely irrational, Sky. That doesn't happen. That's not how people behave in public. Yes, it
Mhm.
is.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you though, Dr. Q, about, because I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about ResqRanch and positive reinforcement. Can you tell me what ResqRanch is?
Yes. So when after I graduated from vet school, I bought a house and I had a couple of horses. And again, I had a lot of strong ties to the racetrack. So I had some off track thoroughbreds that I took in. And, but even though I was a veterinarian, I really didn't know much about training, right? Okay. I mean, look, I've been years, I had by now been on the track and been to all these different kinds of training seminars, Monty Roberts and John Lyons and like all these guys, right? And I went to all their courses and I bought their books and I did what they did because that's what I learned, and that's what I learned on the track, and that's what I learned in vet school, even though we learned very little about behavior training in vet school at all, which is obviously something I think needs to be fixed. But through that, I got a horse from an auction and tried to ride her. Didn't go well. My horse had just died. Okay. It was my first time getting on another horse. And I remember putting the saddle on her back and it still had his like gray hair on the saddle, and I was like, you don't even deserve to wear his saddle, I remember that. And so she promptly threw me and shattered my leg. And I almost lost my leg and I didn't walk for almost a year. So super traumatic injury, catastrophic. And while I was in a wheelchair contemplating my career is now in the toilet, I now have a house. I just bought animals. I don't know how I'm going to feed while I sit in a wheelchair and I have no one to really help me navigate this. I went to the Shed Aquarium in Chicago and I got this book that changed my life. Well, bam!
Animal
training. By who? Who's the
Ken
author?
Ramirez, the legend. Okay, this book literally changed my life. Okay, so and I was like already a vet, right? I had been a vet for a couple of years. I'd been working with racehorses around. I went to Dubai and worked with racehorses. Okay, so I thought I knew, right? And then I got this book and I was like, whoa, I don't know anything. Like I have a lot to learn about animal training from these professionals that have been doing it for over 100 years. And like why there's this huge chasm between the professional animal trainers on this side that have been doing, all the tigers and monkeys and, and teaching animal sign language and, all that kind of stuff that we know is possible and has been done for so many years. And then on the other hand, we're still using choke chains and butt ropes to try and get our horses in trailers. Right. And like, why this huge gap? And like, this side's looking really, this side has no idea. Like I've had lots of conversations with like sea lion trainers and things like that from being an aquatic veterinarian. And when I tell them what horse training world is like, they're like, no, it's not like that. Really? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. And so, so it just like really literally transformed my life. Right. And so it changed how I handled my own animals. It changed how I advised clients. I was like super passionate about this because if me, who's like this animal crazy person and was even a vet and I didn't know about this stuff, like how many other people don't know?
Yeah. I'm not familiar with their work. Is it similar to, do you know Dr. Sophia Yin?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Like I went to UC Davis, so I learned under her as well, before she passed away. Right. But yeah, is it similar or different to that? It's the same positive reinforcement, the same negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's exactly the same. And so that's the thing that I try to teach people is like, look, this is a well-established framework that we all can work from. And that as professionals, we have an obligation to, first of all, understand it, and then be teaching it to people. Recommending anything else is just really like, what's unprofessional?
Malpractice.
Yeah, malpractice. Literally malpractice. Yeah. And so that's, I love that you said that.
But how do you reframe it to the client though? I mean, we're talking about someone you need to train an animal to be obedient, right? It's obedience training. They not
can't get away with that. You can't let them get away with that. That's the common things that people say. You have to show them who's boss, right. The alpha dog.
Show them who's boss. I mean, this is the paradigm, right? And these animals are property, and this is the status of slave in our economy and in our society. I mean, it makes sense that there's so many people who think that we treat them like that. This is, you must be obedient and show them who's boss. How do you reframe that for these, well, people who I just don't see them being very receptive?
Well, I can only try to gain these people's trust so that when they are ready to hear this message, that they'll be open to it. So I don't try to correct anybody anymore because I just think that immediately sets up a barrier. So
They get defensive. Yeah.
we do, right? So I just redirect the conversation to something else. I only recommend positive reinforcement trainers. When people come in with new puppies, I tell them, please only find a positive reinforcement trainer. We do have clients that are wonderful clients, and they bring their dogs in muzzles and choke chains and prong collars, and they are very happy with themselves and very happy with the relationship with their dog. And I just have to meet them where they are. And I just don't criticize them in any way. They're not asking me for behavior training advice, and that's fine. They're just there to ask for my veterinary advice, and that's fine. If they ever did ask me, I can quickly reframe how to fix that problem without those tools. I feel like I'm very gifted.
Here's what's really worked well for me. Let me teach you. Yeah.
But why is one inherently better than the other? Like, just to play devil's advocate here, right? Like, say I'm 100% devil's advocate here, right? But I have a German Shepherd, and they're Schutzen trained, and I've learned to speak all the German commands, and I've got this dog doing all the, the cool tricks, all the special forces tricks. Like, why is positive reinforcement and all this woo feely stuff? Why is that so much better than this masculine domination over my hound?
Well, for one thing, I would say you're going to have more success with that Schutzhund dog if you teach him in a positive reinforcement manner. So if you incorporate positive reinforcement into that training, you will have more success. Do I wish you were only doing more positive reinforcement things with that dog? Yes. But even if you do 25% positive reinforcement things with that dog, and the rest of it is more of that like military type training, it's not ideal. Because, a positive and a negative don't make a positive, right? And so it can create some conflict. But there has been some studies and things that have been done that have shown that even in high level performance horses, that if they even get like 5 or 10 minutes of positive reinforcement, like target training and things like that, it really does lower their stress levels, their baseline stress levels, and their baseline performance actually increases statistically significantly, even if they're only getting it for a few minutes in the day.
Yeah. And if I find, like, Sophia Yin, I think, train it this way, like the alpha dog mentality, the like, you have to maintain control over with dominance and punishment means like the second you are incapable of doing that, incapable of being the leader and the dominant one, the whole training goes out the window. Like your animal will not respond anymore if you can't continue that. Or if like the alpha dog in theory, the alpha dog thing doesn't really exist, but if that leader goes away and isn't in the present state, the other dogs are just going to steal the food and mate with the other dogs and all of this stuff. So that dominance leadership only works when you can always assert your dominance and punishment, but it doesn't work when you can't for whatever reason.
Yeah, it seems like that
they're
culture
always
going
to try to get away with not doing that.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? When you're not looking
to
be a good dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be a good boy. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? And like the culture of domination isn't about the animal, right? It's about the person, and it's a human-centric worldview. Whereas like positive reinforcement seems to be kind of more about making the life
And
of the
like,
animal better.
I find
No?
the horses are happier too. And I don't know if you've looked into the Spanish riding school at all, but I learned under Spanish riding school teachers. And the Spanish riding school actually does a lot of positive reinforcement. Like they give sugar cubes, and that's how I trained in my horses, Piaffe and Passage, with sugar cubes. It wasn't just like beating them to get them to move their legs. It was like inspiring them. And
Right.
then the second they would do it right, it's like, oh, good boy, here's a sugar cube. And then they'd love it, and they'd like offer it in
Right.
the just randomly, just because they're so excited by it, and it's so much fun for them,
Right. So two quick things I would like to add to this conversation.
Yeah.
One is that I did read a study one time that did point out that, like in wolf packs, that the benevolent leader was always a more successful leader than the kind of wolves that would be very like hard dominant on the others, and that sort of leadership style is not as successful actually in wolf packs as the more benevolent leader who's more understanding and patient. And then, one of the things, Sky, you said is like, why should this be better than the other, or why is, not this dominant way of training better than the other? And I would say, well, we just have like 100 years of science that proves that.
Yeah, I guess we see it in business as well, right? A servant leader is always better received, always has better once they get the team going, the team flourishes rather than that, slave driver, right?
And you have like a bonus compensation instead of just like hourly wage compensation. People tend to, want to get out those bonuses. So I'm curious, how you became involved in aquatic medicine? Like, where did that come in?
Yeah, so I married a landscaper, and so he would take me to these mansions, right, and that would have people would spend $100,000 on this water feature. And as a veterinarian, I would see these fish that people would fly to Japan and come back. They would, spend $8,000 or $10,000 to fly this fish from Japan back to Colorado, and I would see torn fins and masses and wounds and lesions as a veterinarian on these animals. And I was like, well, what do you do about that? And the answer was like, I don't buy a new one, And I was like, okay, I had no interest in fish whatsoever. Okay. I mean, just honestly, I was like, oh, it sounds scary and hard, but these animals need help. Right. And so I was like, okay. Yeah. So reluctantly, I started taking CE courses here and there, flew around the country to just do weekend courses on aquatic animal medicine. And then in 2012, I was actually hired. Novartis, which doesn't exist anymore, the drug company, they had an aquatics division, and I was the professional services veterinarian for the whole Northern Hemisphere for their aquatics division. So I traveled to Israel and to Chile and learned a bunch about how to take care of fish better, and actually brought the first koi herpes virus vaccine into the United States and vaccinated koi fish against that disease. So I was really involved in all of that. And then, so I've lectured, so I forgive the pun, but I kind of became a big fish in a small pond, right? Because there's not a lot of aquatic veterinarians. And so like in 2020, I was the president of the World Aquatic Veterinary Medical Association. And so I really love my aquatics community. I love the people that do it. They're just so humble and have so much integrity. People that care about fish are just different. And I just really feel so lucky and grateful that I was pushed into that.
Yeah, I remember my uncle, who's the racehorse vet. When I was thinking about going to vet school, he had a koi pond. I don't know if he still does, but he was like, "You need to get into fish medicine," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I never have.
Yes,
but
you do. You should.
I know.
We need more fish vet. It's not that hard.
I'll message you after this and let me know what classes to take and stuff like that, what CE to go to, because I am interested. Ever since I got more involved in the campaign to help the veterinary staff and vets at Miami Seaquarium, I have been like going there, like the fish were the worst off and nobody was getting attention on the fish.
Right.
And I'm so thankful, like I just, reached out to the news, and the reporters were interested in the fish story too, because they looked so bad with their cloudy eyes and everything. And it's like, yeah, we need to get more attention on the plight of fish here.
We
So I
do.
love it. And I know we've taken up an hour, but do you have more time to stick around? If not, no big deal. But I have a few more questions for you.
Yeah, I'm good.
We
I'm
can
good.
go. Okay, awesome. So what do you think? If you could do anything to change the veterinary profession or to change veterinary education, what changes would you like to make and see?
I would like to see our profession be more compassionate towards the idea of more plant-based diets and not using animals in studies, and being more considerate of the animals in the teaching, like you're working with so much right now. I just feel like that, we have this whole, the livestock industry and the agriculture industry, and they're hanging on to all their ideals and it's like their traditions, and it's like everything about their whole being, they feel threatened when we even approach the idea of maybe there's a different way we can approach this. And so I just would love to see more open conversation about that. I mean, I get it. I don't want families to lose their whole livelihood. I don't want them to lose their ranches. Okay. I get it that people have to make a living somehow. But it doesn't change the fact that what we're doing a lot of times is really awful. And I don't know how you can say you're an animal lover and then just like choose to have a blind eye to these animals that are marching up these ramps into these slaughterhouses every day, or all these other ways that we are killing animals, that while we at the same time try to convince you how much of an animal lover we really are. And I believe they are animal lovers. I do. I think they are. But that's what I'd like to see is I'd love to see a little bit more coming closer together so we can talk about this without people feeling threatened. Without anybody feeling threatened. Right.
Yeah.
More open minds.
Just the dismissiveness with which we are attacked when we raise concerns about ventilation shutdown or gas chambers and things like that. Yeah.
People don't want to think about, what happened to that chicken, right? That it went from this cute little fluffy thing that you are going to go into the feed store and you and the kids are going to look at it and go, oh my God, so cute. Oh my God, I wish we could have a chicken. Right. But that animal, or one exactly like it, suffered a horrific experience that you cannot even imagine that anything could go through. And then it was just like wrapped in plastic wrap, and now it's in your freezer. And you just, that whole like middle piece is like, it's, the chicken deserves for you to know like what it went through, for you to have that in your freezer.
People don't like to be confronted with their own complicity in those actions. Right. It's a hard pill to swallow.
It is. And, but it doesn't change the fact that you are being complicit.
That's right.
What advice would you give to veterinary students right now who are going through vet school?
Well, I would just say that, be open-minded. And if you feel like the way animals are treated is like at a deep-seated level isn't okay, even though everybody around you is telling you this group mentality, oh, it is okay, that it has to be this way, don't be afraid to stand up and say, no, it doesn't. I mean, I didn't do terminal lab surgeries. My rat that I was supposed to do surgery on, I took it home and gave it a good home until it died. And then
did they know you did that?
I just didn't give them an opportunity to like, I just said, I'm not doing that. And I'm taking this animal. And I just left.
Oh, I love it. Jedi Master.
Open rescue.
Yeah. And there was another class that was like that too, where they were branding calves, and it was just brutal. And I just walked out, and I was like, look, they're either going to kick me out, write me up, whatever it is, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. because that is awful and I will not participate in that. And
I
nothing
love it.
happened to me for either one of those. You know, they were
Which
like,
school was this, by the way?
Colorado
Colorado
State.
State. Okay.
Mm.
That's amazing. You just took your rat and went home and nobody said a word. There's so many stories like that. I'm telling you, veterinarians, you all need to share your story of rescuing animals from vet school, because there are dozens of these stories of veterinary students stealing, rescuing animals, and it's just so normal.
I
I
mean,
wish we could get more of those stories.
Yeah.
I
Everybody who's watching, share, like, email me if you know somebody who has a story, or if you have your own story. We want to hear it, because it's so common. Oh, I love that so much. That's great. What was your rat's name?
you know, since then I have had probably 21 rats. And so I'd have to think for a minute to come up with that one's name.
Rats are the best. I had a rat growing up named Sparky, who
Sparky.
ended up getting cancer on his leg, getting it up. Oh, no, I don't remember. There was a cancer. Then there was also like twisting the leg in the cage and getting gangrene. Either way, the leg was amputated, and the rat went on to live for a while. And he was a great rat. Rats are the best, and it's horrible what we do to them.
They are the best. And I always tell clients that, you know, they're like, oh, I'm going to get my kid a hamster. I'm like, no.
Do a rat. Get a rat. Yeah.
You need to get a rat.
Rats know their names. They're amazing. I mean,
they're
yeah.
so sweet and cuddly and cute and wonderful. I call them my little fairy people.
They're pretty rad. I like them.
So what are you working on now? What's the big next thing in your life that you're doing?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. So I just read a book that's how to 10x your business is easier than 2xing your business. So I don't know if you remember, but I'm the 2022 Colorado Small Business Person of the Year. So
amazing.
Yeah. So for me, business is a really kind of fun hobby, because I know that I can reach more people and spread my message, the better I am at my marketing, my business skills. And so I just finished that, and it made me kind of go into this like deep meditative mood for a while. And I came out on the other side with the whole premise of the book is that just this very simple idea: to have an impossible goal with an impossible timeline. So the whole entire book is really just all these examples of trying to convince you why that is what you have to do. So
I want to read this book, actually.
Me too.
I used to read lots of books like that. Like Peter Thiel's book was, you know, I don't know how we feel about Peter Thiel, but his book was similar to that.
Who wrote this one, Dr. Questen?
It's called The Science of Scaling. I don't remember his name, but it's The Science of Scaling, and it just came out like a couple months ago.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it's a really great book. So anyway, so my audacious goal by my audacious timeline is to teach 100 million people in the power of positive reinforcement animal training within the next 3 years.
Like, is this going to be through social media, or are you making lectures? And
yeah, so I already have a horse training masterclass that I built a few years ago that I sell. It's really a great, I mean, it's like 150 hours of veterinary education in animal behavior compressed into a little less than 3 hours. And so I make all of my horse trainers that want to come here to the ResqRanch watch that and do a little proficiency exam before they're allowed to interact with the animals here. So I have that to start with, and then we're going to move that into more of a subscription site soon. We're working on that so that we can have like weekly Q&A calls, so we can be supportive to people that are in the program that have questions about how to use the positive reinforcement with their horses. And then really just my YouTube channel is really how I want to I do a new video every Friday. I do lots of live streams, and I talk about positive reinforcement training all the time. I think everybody thinks that's all I do. And it's just because that's what I'm really super passionate about. Because I know that let me back up. When I reach my goal, that'll be at least 2 people with the skills and knowledge that they need to save every single Mustang that's in a holding pen in America today. Right. And so, the plight of all these Mustangs that we're rounding up systematically and just putting them in these holding pens, very few of them get adopted because, like, who has the skills to handle this wild animal, right? And so when I reach my goal, though, there'll be at least 2 people in the world for every single Mustang. So hopefully at one of those 2 people or both of those 2 people will get out there and will empty those holding pens and get all those animals in homes or whatever is best, whether it's get them in a sanctuary or whatever. But I feel really passionate about getting Mustangs out of holding pens.
That's amazing. How many horses do you have at the ResqRanch?
We just have 9.
9.
Yeah.
I want to visit sometime.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry I missed you when you were here in Colorado. I was having classes. So I have classes really frequently. So I have classes on Thursdays and Fridays and Sundays where I teach positive reinforcement. I have people come here. I'm just going to start a new class on Thursday nights called Trailblazers. That's geared more towards kids, hour and a half, so that I can kind of get them started on the right path with positive reinforcement training. And also, they're going to be safer that way, right? I look at my social media feed and I know all these people all these other parents that have children and they're involved with these different kinds of other organizations that don't use positive reinforcement. And I just have to kind of keep my mouth closed and just observe quietly in the background. And because I'm holding my breath for those injuries to come on.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like a matter of time, before they have a bad experience and something happens, the horse blows up and somebody gets hurt. And that's just like really pretty much statistically, the probability is like super high. But they don't understand positive reinforcement. They think it's, they're just like indoctrinated in their little group and they're happy there and they feel safe there. And that's fine. But I'm here for the day that's not fine anymore. So I want to help make sure that these kids get a good start, but are really safe.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I'm on the board of LEAP, which is Leaders for Ethics, Animals, and the Planet. And like, I got to reach out to my team there because I think your content, positive reinforcement, would be so great for the LEAP kids. And LEAP is basically, we teach kids about farmed animal care through sanctuaries and stuff. But I feel like we need more of a horse component. So maybe we could, I gotta schemes here. This is great stuff.
Yeah. So our class is going to be basically each class is going to be 4 pillars. It's going to be part horse care, part horse training, part horse trainer care. Okay. So that's going to be talking about mindfulness, gratefulness, physical care, doing squats, taking care of our body so that our bodies will sustain us until we're 85 years old if we still want to work with horses till then. And then horse advocacy. So I want to talk about the Mustangs, talk about slaughter, talk about horse racing, so that even at a younger age, these kids get a little bit of, it's all age appropriate. And I use little briar horses and we do hula hoops and chalk and make it fun. But I think it's really important topics to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, closing up here, what gives you hope for the future? I know it's a rough world out there right now, but how do you stay resilient and what gives you hope?
So thanks for asking that. I think that, so I don't know if you guys know this, but there was just a school shooting at my daughter's school this
It
week.
was your daughter's school? Oh my gosh.
My daughter.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
How is she?
She's hanging in there. She was sick that day.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing? A miracle. So she wasn't in school that day. But what I remember most, and I think what helps me is that, I remember 9/11. I don't know if you guys, how old you were when that, but I remember.
We remember.
And I was 20 years old.
You were? I thought you were going to say you were like 2.
No. 44 years old.
But I remember really strongly how our whole country came together after that. I mean, I still have the little ribbon, the little red, white, and blue ribbon on my truck. It's not the truck I drive every day. It's a truck that's just in storage now because she's older. But I still have my 9/11 ribbon on my truck. And I just hope some or one or all of these will bring us back to where we can have some unity again. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unity. Yeah, I hope it doesn't take another 9/11, to be honest with you, but I do remember that there was a short amount of time after 9/11 where everyone felt like an American and we were all one. Even and I was living in Germany at the time, and even there people were
Unless you
saying,
were Muslim, I
I mean,
guess.
that
I mean,
happened
I just
shortly
have
there.
to say
That
that
wasn't
to like,
immediate. That wasn't
no, it
immediate. That
wasn't
happened
immediate.
like, yeah, that's what it kind of morphed into, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But for a short, just a flash, just a little while, man. I
Mhm.
remember in Germany, people were saying we're all American now. The Brandenburger Gate had this
Mhm.
drape on it, so it had the white. So when you looked at it, you could see the White House behind the German. What do you call it? A monument.
Yeah.
Sorry, the German. Sometimes when I'm talking about Germany, German words come into my head first. But it's really, I mean, people. I woke up on September 12th, and there was a mountain of flowers at City Hall, just on the steps of City Hall. Because where were you going to put flowers in Germany? All the flags, Germans don't have flags, and they were all at half mast. My point is that it was a
Mm.
worldwide phenomenon that everyone kind of felt united. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Up yeah.
hoping for some unity like that. Go ahead, Dr.
Yeah,
Heath.
I'm just thinking, how can we create that without a tragedy? And I hope that there's something we can do, some sort of
Well, we can all get behind the mission of
inspire.
positive
Yes,
reinforcement, man. I
that would
mean,
exactly.
you
That
know,
will change the world. If people
it will.
taught
It
their
will.
children using positive reinforcement instead of punishment and spanking and all of this stuff, I think
It
the world would
helps
be a better
parents.
place.
It would. It helps parents. It helps kids. I mean, I'm gonna
Absolutely.
do my little part of a revolution in my little niche of the world, and
Yeah,
and
that's all
then
we can do.
it's all you can do. It's all you can do.
Yes, your little part of the revolution. I love that. I think that's what, yeah, we might not be able to change the whole world, but we can change our little part of it. We can make our
Yes.
little dent, and that makes a huge difference if we're all hammering away. Completely agree.
Right.
I'm so sorry that your daughter's going through that. It's
Thanks. Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks. It's a weird week.
Yeah. I yeah, it's tragic, you know, and it doesn't yeah, I mean, I had three school shootings throughout my life, and it's like it's becoming more and more common that it's just becoming this thing that everyone has to go through somehow, and it's not, yeah, but that doesn't make it any easier. It's this tragic reality of American life that I wish we could somehow change.
Yeah, I wish we could too.
Yeah.
We had a community gathering here last night. It was really nice, and actually, our governor came and spoke at it, which was
Oh,
Governor
amazing.
Cox.
Jared
No,
Polis.
Governor Cox is Utah Dallas. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he actually came, and I was like standing 10 feet away from him, and it was not, it meant a lot, that he would come there. I think for me, the main thing is avoiding like the angry rhetoric around it, right? And not perpetuating that. There was a lot of people that were like, oh, I can't believe this happened in our small town. And I'm like, let's see. I remember my kids having to call and talk to safety officers last year because there was a kid that was going to shoot up the school. So yeah, you did kind of know, right? So for you to just be like, oh, I can't believe what happened in our small town. Well, then you weren't paying attention because
Columbine was a small town. I mean, it's not a, yeah, this is not, small towns are not impervious.
right. We just have to be ready, which we were, right? They did all the right things. They did the lockdown. They did the protocols that they practiced, and they did a great job. And
that's why only one person died. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And hopefully, and he was the perpetrator, unfortunately.
Right.
So it's like best case scenario because we have 2 injured students. One's been released from the hospital, and the other one, we're just praying that they will be released soon.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's just, but the trauma's there. The trauma's real, and it's something that everyone has to work through when they go through a harrowing experience like that. Even though we count the casualties, and we count ourselves so lucky that so few died in Colorado, and it doesn't matter. It does matter, obviously, but it doesn't change the fact that everyone there went through a traumatic experience, and we're going to have to navigate that now.
But I hope it brings them together. That's what I'm saying. That's what I hope. I hope it makes the students stronger, more resilient. The community comes together. That's really what I hope comes out of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I hope so too. Well, from your lips to God's ears, I hope that you're right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Dr. Q, for spending this hour with us and then hour and change with us. Appreciate you so much. I'm inspired by your words, and I
Yeah.
think our viewers will be as well. And I am a subscriber to the one Dr. Q. That's your YouTube channel, and the link is already in the chat.
Thank you.
Also, the book that you mentioned is also in the chat. The Science of Scaling by Dr. Hardy, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up, but I know I've already forgotten the authors. But that's also in the chat. Thank you for sharing your life with us and your
Thanks
time
for
with us.
having me. Dr. Heath, you inspire me so much.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so grateful for you and the work that you do, because I am glad that I don't have to do what you do.
I appreciate, likewise. I'm glad that there are general practice acupuncture vets out there seeing clients, so I just get to spay and neuter kitties.
Yeah,
And
your
it's
videos
great.
are great. So, all right, well, thanks, Sky, thanks for being here and helping facilitate all this for us.
I love the inspiration from both of you. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and thank you everyone who's liked and subscribed the video. And we'll see you next Wednesday for ABC. All beings considered. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.